Three, two, one, action. Welcome back to episode 52 of As Seen on Screen. I'm Gracie.
And I'm Nicole, and we're your source for entertainment news, reviews, conversations, and more.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube.
Well, welcome back to another week on the show. We are so glad you are here. Thank you for joining us for another week of all things entertainment news. Our first bit today, though, that we're talking about is probably the biggest piece of news we've discussed on here in a while. Gracie and I have been laughing about it for the last 30 minutes, so let's just keep talking about it since it is fresh in our mind. Starting off, if you have not heard, Sunrise on the Reaping are officially calling for fans to send in their audition tapes through social media and audition for the film. And I don't know if it's going how they wanted it to go, but it's certainly going how we are enjoying it.
Okay, I have so many things to say about this. I'm gonna start with the first thing. One, whoever decided to not take this casting call seriously, thank you, because this has been some of the best pieces of comedy I have seen in a hot minute on TikTok. So thank you. But also, it might be working out the way they wanted it to, because I saw a TikTok, obviously, and it wasn't an audition. It was kind of like breaking down the whole idea. And someone was saying, yes, they get a fan on the set, but also this could be such a good marketing thing for them to get free publicity.
Absolutely.
Because now that's all anyone sees on their For You page. And if they haven't heard about it, they're gonna look it up. So even though people are making it like jokingly, it's benefiting the Hunger Games anyway. So I'm pretty sure they don't care. But also, I do have two problems with this casting. Number one, why is it US only? Hello?
Rude.
Rude. I was so heartbroken. I was so ready to film a serious application. And then I was like, oh, I can't. Never mind.
So like,
Um,
we just need to film a gag video for fun and get that.
Literally. But then I'm also seeing people who are like 15 in the US and they're like, I'm reaping age. Why can't I audition? I'm like, yo, this is getting a little too real.
That's
Um,
deadly.
I was like, there are still work laws. Like,
This isn't actually Panem, everyone.
I am so sorry. I'm like, valid point for the movie, but not for real life. But also, if anyone, which I don't think we have, because let's be honest, no one reads the terms and conditions. But if you read the terms and conditions, there are going to be so many auditions that get disqualified automatically. Because once again, I was watching a TikTok and this girl broke down all of the terms and conditions. And one of the very first two says you cannot use any copyrighted content in your audition. So you can't use anything from the Hunger Games books or movies, any monologue that's already online, any music if you want to sing. You like there was a girl who auditioned with Lucy Gray's song, disqualified. You don't get a say. Why would that not be the first thing that they put? Like they're messing people up here. There are so many serious ones that aren't even gonna get looked at because you can't use copyright content. It literally has to be original.
That is deadly because honestly, they're so good. The auditions people.
Like you, these are the game makers at this point because that is so messed up. You are rooting for my downfall.
That's just mean of them. But I feel like we should explain for anyone who hasn't
Oh
happened
yeah.
to stumble upon any of these videos yet. I apologize if you've been missing out thus far, but let us put you on it. Basically, the Hunger Games account took to Instagram and said you can post a video, like Gracie was saying, of an original audition clip for Sunrise on the Reaping. And everyone on TikTok is really taking it into their own hands to make the funniest video that they can make. There's a few, very few and far between are actually serious auditions, but most people are just making these for fun, and literally doing anything from being like, let me be the District 1 tribute running off of the plate,
Mm.
and then they run across their lawn and they pretend to get shot and they just like fall down. And then like, there you go.
And then there's the one girl in the fridge. She's like, I'm auditioning to be President Snow's glass of milk. And she's literally
She's
just
just
holding a
hanging in
milk
the
carton.
fridge.
Like people are so creative.
I
I love it.
love people. Gracie and I was trying to explain to Gracie, there's one I can't find. But last night I was watching one and there's a video or there's a photo that I'll put here from the first film. And Gale is standing in District 12 at the reaping and there's a guy standing beside him. And this guy claims that he was this guy in the photo from the first movie. And now he's like, I want to be a distant relative to whoever this person is from the original Hunger Games movie in Sunrise on the Reaping, and
What an icon.
everyone's like, you're the only person I'm rooting for to actually get this. But now he won't. Copyrighted material.
But is it copyright if it's literally him?
You know what? That's valid. And
Maybe
it's
he
not
found a
original.
loophole.
It's not original, but it is him.
Maybe, maybe he's the loophole. But like, yeah, when I found out that copyrighted thing, I was like, that's so messed up. Like, I was so pissed about it for a hot second. I was like, can I audition? No. But the good auditions I have seen, count your days because this is ridiculous.
There's also one I saw of this, I said Gracie, of these kids that had filmed like a Hunger Games, like an iMovie. Like, you know, when we were kids and we made iMovies, yeah, someone did that actually back in 2012 when the Hunger Games was coming out. And they made a whole thing pretending to be them. One kid actually printed out Liam Hemsworth's face and stuck it on himself to be Gale. Oh my God. And they posted this as like their audition. And everyone's like, you were ahead
Cinematic.
of the curve by 13 years.
Dude, what I'm telling you, that was a cinematic masterpiece, but also they're disqualified because it's definitely copyrighted.
I don't think that one was ever in the running.
Oh, 100% it was. Like the performance is stunning. Where she says, "Mom, go away." That was great. Because I vividly remember like acting out in the mirror and my parents would walk in and I'd be like, "Stop, guys."
Stop it.
Uh,
Oh
well,
man.
all that being said, if you look up the Sunrise on the Reaping casting on either Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, basically any social media platform, you will get a good giggle.
Just do yourself a favor and do it right after you finish listening to the podcast.
Yeah, fish podcast, then go do that.
Well, moving in to some other news for this week. Joey King is currently in negotiations to star alongside Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman in Practical Magic 2. The movie, like we said last week, is releasing next September 18th, 2026 by Warner Bros. Pictures.
I mean, this makes sense to me because I mean, Joey King has obviously worked with Nicole Kidman on what was it, A Family
Family
Affair?
Affair, just last year.
So I feel like Nicole is gonna put in a good word for her. We'll see, but still in negotiations.
And I'm intrigued to see who her character would be, because obviously we know that Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman's characters are sisters in the film, so I'm intrigued to see who Joey King is going to be in this dynamic. But moving into some other news for more on the reality TV side of things, somewhat competition reality side of television. Gracie, what's happening over at Dancing with the Stars?
Well, I mean, besides the Robert Irwin announcement that we got probably like a month ago, but he will be on the new season of Dancing with the Stars. But the next person who will be in this season's competition has been announced, and it is none other than Alex Earl. And honestly, yeah, it makes sense. Like she's just been blowing up. Not that she hasn't been famous up until this point, but I feel like she's had such exponential growth lately that it just makes sense for her to be on something like this. And I do think she'll make it far. Like how far do you think she'll make it?
You know what? Like you made a good point earlier. Gracie and I were talking about this before we started filming, and because she has so many millions of devoted followers, I really think that will help her, obviously. Um, I think it's interesting because there was a lot of conversation last season talking about how the TikTok side of the show, like the growth, especially with Riley and Ezra as pros, really bringing TikTok and social media into it and kind of creating this whole new fan base for the show that might not have tuned in or watched it or had more contestants. Like we saw Alona last season, was really also on her social media game and had a huge, huge, huge fan base. Not that she didn't from her sport and from rugby and already being an Olympic athlete herself, but definitely also had a huge fan base over in social media side. So I think Alex Earl having so many millions and millions of followers will definitely be an asset to her, obviously, for sure. And I think definitely the TikTok side of things will be rooting for her. Absolutely.
You know what I'm excited to see for this season of Dancing with the Stars? I feel like there's at least one every season who is going to pretend they're dating for the entirety of the Dancing with the Stars season. Like they kind of like hint that they're dating, but they're not actually dating. But then that gets them further because everybody's like, "Oh my God, we ship them." So
True.
I want to know who that's gonna be this year. Well, there's still a lot more casting announcements for that to come because obviously we only really have two people right now.
And I think it'll be interesting to see who's your guess as to who she's going to pair it up with. Because even though we don't have the announcement of which pros are going to be in this season, who would your guess be?
I'm kind of feeling like since we're going with the social media vibe, I could see her getting paired with Ezra.
Me too. That would be my guess. I would guess Ezra, and I do like the guess of pairing Robert with Riley. Uh,
Hmm.
who else? I don't. I just feel like that's what I just keep hearing, and now it's planted in my head. But my initial thing when I heard Alex was, oh yeah, she has to be with Ezra.
Like imagine the content we would get from that duo.
Literally.
Iconic. I can't wait. If they're not paired together, it's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem.
But whatever. Moving away from the reality TV world into Marvel Studios. Am I surprised by this announcement? Not really, but am I disappointed? A little. Avengers Doomsday has been delayed. It's pushed back its theatrical release date of May 1st, 2026, and now it will be December 18th, 2026. So it's not a big pushback, but still enough. But obviously, with that being delayed, Avengers Secret Wars has also been delayed to December 17th, 2027, when it was originally May 7th, 2027. I feel like ever since Barbenheimer happened, there have been so many people trying to recreate Barbenheimer. Like, right now we have,
Including us.
yes, but right now we have Mission Stitch.
Yeah. Which,
Great. Or Stitch Impossible, whichever you want.
oh, I like Stitch Impossible better, actually. Mission Stitch
I
sounds scary.
I love all of the little like edits of Tom Cruise holding Stitch in like
Yes.
the movie, but people are trying to recreate the impact that Barbenheimer had. So, with that being said, Dune Messiah has the same opening weekend with December 16th, 2026, and then December 18th is Avengers Doomsday. So, what are we calling this? Dune Doomsday?
Doomsday. I saw an interesting thing on TikTok though about this last night because who is in Doomsday that was also in Oppenheimer? Robert Downey Jr. and Florence Pugh.
And who's also in Dune Messiah? Florence Pugh. And who's in the new Avengers? Florence Pugh. You know what? It's not a Dune Doomsday. It's just a Florence Pugh
It's
weekend.
Florence Pugh's day.
It is.
Well, I think, yeah, that's a shame. And I think it's interesting to hear online too, people asking if this is going to affect Spider-Man Brand New Day.
The problem with Marvel is when one thing gets pushed back, everything gets pushed back because they have such a strategic timeline. And sometimes that's a great thing, but sometimes it's also like your timeline makes no sense and nobody cares. They just want the content.
Yeah,
So it's a win-lose.
it's a win-lose. And I think, like, part of me is like, if they were going to push back Spider-Man, they would have made that announcement at the same time they did for Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Hmm.
Who knows? But it's really interesting because now the whole order of the release is messed up. So I would also really think that they would push it back, but who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. You never know with Marvel. It's always keeping you on your toes. I mean, how many times are they gonna postpone the Blade movie and then cancel it and then bring it back and then postpone it and then cancel it?
Keeping you on your toes.
No, you never know with them. But you know what? Thank you, Kevin Feige.
But you know what? If you were worried about what you're doing on May 1st of 2026, now that Doomsday is not in your docket, good news. Someone swooped in and took the release date off of Marvel's hands
We
very
were worried.
and impressively, I might add, although it might have already been there anyways. The Devil Wears Prada 2 is scheduled for its theatrical release date next year, May 1st, 2026. I am so ready. We're getting a Practical Magic and the Devil Wears Prada sequel in the same year. Love.
Cinema is back.
Cinema is back. I agree.
I find it so funny how fast they announced that Devil Wears Prada 2 is taking that slot. But I'm also like, is it real? Because in my mind, we just announced Devil Wears Prada 2 is in the works, but like, I guess it's further than we thought.
True, considering it's less than a year away now already.
Yeah, so once again, keeping us on our toes.
You know what I will say though, I keep seeing a clip of John Krasinski doing an interview with I believe it's Entertainment Tonight, talking about how many times he watched The Devil Wears Prada before he met Emily Blunt, and I keep seeing it. I'm
And
like,
then he lied about not watching.
man,
Man, best
that
of
man,
John Krasinski.
that man really sat there 50 times and watched his future wife in a movie, met her, and was like, nah.
I've never seen it. You know what that
That
reminds me of? That one Vine where it's like, I've never been to Uvu Jabber.
Like, note, this is not how you do that. That's not
Like,
the way to approach.
you know what? I can't even blame him though, because like, have you ever had those dreams where you're like, if I meet a celebrity that I'm in love with, I'm gonna be like, I don't know who you are, just to make them feel like they can relate to you.
But he's John Krasinski. He is also a celebrity.
We don't know if she responded with, I've never seen you.
That would be awkward.
It's like, how'd you two even meet? We didn't know who we were.
We just ran to each other.
Just a normal day on Hollywood Boulevard. But that is all of the entertainment news that we have.
Well, before we get into our watches of the week this week, we have a special review thanks to our amazing friend and now new contributor for As Seen on Screen, Isabella. Thank you so, so much. She headed to the Karate Kid Legends screening from Sony Pictures in Toronto the other night, and she's here with your early review of the film before it hits theaters tomorrow. So let's take it to Isabella.
Hi, I'm Isabella Soares, and I'm here to share with you a spoiler-free review of Karate Kid Legends on behalf of my friends Nicole and Gracie. So I watched an advent screening yesterday, and it was so much fun. I'll tell you this, just seeing parents and kids having this time to bond, and the kids were viscerally reacting to the fight sequences in the film, and just were super entertained. And that made me feel super nostalgic because, my parents introduced me to the trilogy when I was a kid. And then I watched the 2010 film in theaters, and it was just a lovely experience just to be reminded of that, be reminded that this franchise means a lot to families. And hopefully it will continue on and be passed on to generations. But the film itself is a little bit different from what we've seen in different variations of Karate Kid. We have Lee moving from China to the US. And I think the cool thing here is that he already has some knowledge of martial arts, right? He studied Kung Fu in China, but his mother isn't really happy about him continuing to fight because of a traumatic incident with his brother. So he is trying to leave that behind as he moves to New York. But he is, brought back to the world of martial arts through a unique set of circumstances that happens when he moves to New York, and he meets, this pizza place owner played by Joshua Jackson. And yeah, he is basically trying to help this man pay back a loan that he isn't able to pay without having some sort of help from a fight um, prize. So it was really, really cool to see that the film has some twists and turns. It was also amazing to see, Ben Wang in this role. He's so charismatic. It's a great cast all around. And, Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan working together, it's obviously something we've been waiting for a long time. And it definitely is fun to see them, working together, trying to mesh karate with kung fu. And there are always like some little disagreements of what to do and help Lee, evolve as a martial arts fighter. So it was fun to see that. I will say the film was very fast paced. I was very surprised that it took like an hour and a half. It was like a really short runtime for the amount of story that was happening. And it definitely affected a little bit of, the pacing of the film. And I felt like maybe with all of the story that the film had, it could have, as well made a full season of Cobra Kai. So I will say that I was a little disappointed by the fact that, like you don't actually have that many scenes with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan together. It really feels like it is the later half of the film, even though it was promoted that this would be the main focus, of this new movie. So I will say that that disappointed me a bit. That there wasn't enough time with these two legends in this franchise, but I will say it was all around fun. I think this is the family movie that, you're looking for. The kids will enjoy it. It is also a reminder of how Karate Kid is really a gift that keeps on giving. And I can't wait to see what will come out of this franchise after Cobra Kai ended and now this movie. Will they continue on? I have no idea, but I'm really excited to find out. And it's really cool again to see kids having the chance to experience a new generation of karate and kung fu. And it was really cool to see how the film weaves in Mr. Miyagi's ancestry, and his knowledge of martial arts, and how he used to have this saying that it's two branches in one tree, and you really see how karate and kung fu apply to that analogy and symbolism. So it was really fun to see with a group of people. Obviously, there are a little bit of surface level, storylines happening, but overall, just had a really lovely time. I hope you guys enjoy it.
A big thank you to Isabella and to Sony Pictures for the invite. Nicole and I couldn't go, but we are so excited to see it when it hits theaters on May 30th.
And make sure you check Isabella's work out on her other outlets that she does amazing things for on Collider and She Does the City.
Moving on to our next segment, Nicole, what is your watch of the week? Even though I already know what it is.
I am gonna do a movie and a TV show just to change it up, to get both in there. I'll start off with my movie for the week. I saw Final Destination's Bloodlines. I thought it was so funny. I love the Final Destination movies because they just get outrageously, they just get they get more outrageous every time I watch them, and I love it. I mean outrageous in the best way possible. The deaths that they have in these movies, the way they have the deaths in these movies. I kept seeing on TikTok before I went about the penny, and if anyone has seen the movie, they know what I'm talking about. And I was going into it and I was like, how how did a penny cause death? And then I watched it and I was like, oh, oh. Good thing Canada does not produce pennies.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the acting in the film was great. The performances were fun and they were fresh. I like how the storyline connects with the rest of these movies. The Final Destination movies always do such a great job of bringing it back to the OG, whether like past sequels we've seen, they've literally brought it back to the very first scene on the plane from the first film. This one, obviously, it doesn't do that, but it does tie in the storyline, hence the name Bloodlines. And I think it's really interesting how they made that storyline and this whole idea that if someone was supposed to die in this instance and whatever, and then they escaped death, and then they go on to have all these families, and they have families, and they have families, and then like all of them are just doomed. What a happy storyline. But for these movies, I think it really works, and I thought that was very brilliant of them, and I was very happy to say that I enjoyed this film. Like I said, I think the Final Destination movies are so funny. They're one of those horror movies that like obviously you don't take too seriously, but they also do such a good job at inducing anxiety, even though they're not supposed to be like this very serious horror movie. The whole time I'm sitting there and I'm like, gosh, this could really happen. I don't know. You wouldn't think it could, but this happened pretty easily to them. A lot of it was very gory, as again, oftentimes they are because of how outrageous the kills are. Obviously, the aftermath isn't looking too good either. But I thought that was interesting, and I definitely will not be going up to CN Tower anytime soon. I'll just leave it at that. But my TV show watch of the week, I binged literally last night, 1 through 6, texted Gracie from when I started it to when I finished it. I think she was still sleeping the whole time because, time change. Maxton Hall. I watched the full first season of Maxton Hall and I am obsessed. I'm very glad I checked this one off the to be watched list because it had been on there since last year when the show came out. Finally got to it and I loved it. The chemistry that these two have is insane. It obviously makes this story all the more convincing. You gotta love an enemies to lovers trope. And I think the performances are super well done. I love the character growth that we see our characters have throughout these 6 episodes. I really enjoy the friendships that are built and the friendships that we see grow as well throughout this. I am very excited for season 2 to come out at the end of this year. I am now dying to see where the rest of this story goes.
I gotta rewatch that before the next season comes out.
To refresh it in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, what was your watch of the week?
I also watched a TV show and a movie. Well, I watched two movies, but they're kind of the same, so I count them as one. But starting off with my movies, I did watch 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, which are obviously in the same franchise. It's kind of like a zombie apocalyptic type movie. I only watched them because the 28 Years Later is coming out very soon. And I was super excited for it because obviously the trailer just looks killer and neither Nicole or I had seen it, so we did have high hopes for it. That being said, I didn't particularly enjoy these movies. I don't know, it just felt very repetitive, number one, but also just very unrealistic. Like, obviously, it's about zombies, it's unrealistic. Oh, you never know. But just the way that the first one went, where the main character was in a hospital and he woke up to everybody being gone. Like you're telling me there wasn't one zombie in that hospital? That no way.
You're like,
Like
no,
we had
not
to
convinced.
search the city to find a singular zombie. That to me, you should have been dead by now. And then all of a sudden, two people come out and save him. Like, I don't know. The plot line made sense, but the way it was executed didn't make sense to me, so I didn't love it. I did love the dynamic between the two main characters though. Kind of those like last few people alive, we gotta get along with each other even if we don't fully trust each other. But I didn't like the turn it took at the end. It made me very uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. But that's just my personal like preference. And the second one was kind of just like a copy paste, but with different people. I want to know what happened to the original people, but it went to two completely different people. So that kind of sucked. But the cinematography was great. And it was I think it was ahead of its time because people then didn't really thoroughly embrace it, but then it went super popular, and now it's kind of like, well, we're going on to 28 years later, so we'll see. But besides those two films, I also did watch the first episode of We Were Liars. So thank you to Prime Video for sending that over to us for early screeners. Obviously, I cannot say anything about it, but if you're a fan of the book, you can look forward to the upcoming series adaptation.
Yay!
Yay!
Well, those are our watches of the week. So, Gracie, you know what comes next? What was your song of the week?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I have been in a country mood lately.
Aww.
My song of the week, as I said before, I've been in a country phase lately. So, I grew up on country. Every now and then I go through a really strong country phase where that's all I listen to.
That's what I call a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's always in my music mix, but sometimes I'll just solely listen to country and nothing else. So that's a lifestyle for Nicole. Toy Gun by Carrie Underwood.
What a
That came
good
on, and I was
choice.
like, oh, I forgot about how good that slapped. I mean, obviously, very, very sad song, but like the vocals are so good. So
No.
I was blasting that. I've been blasting a lot of country, but not country. Mind Reader by Megan Trainor and Mimi Webb. So good. It has been stuck in my head for days when I'm not listening to country. So that is my mixture. But Nicole, what is your song of the week?
I feel like I just had an artist of the week, to be honest. I was really on a Taylor Swift kick all week. Like,
Love.
all Taylor. Allie and I, my sister and I, Allie, we made like a joint little car playlist now that she can drive. So now we have this little playlist that we're in for the car, so cute. And there's a lot of Taylor Swift on it, so I keep
As
shuffling
there
it.
should be.
And a lot of Taylor Swift, specifically, specifically Tolerate It keeps coming on. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, just let me be in the feels all the time, I guess, apparently.
you know what I feel like we moved on way too fast from? You're losing me.
Also on the playlist and a lot.
I
That
feel like everybody was like hounding her for this song, and then we got it, and we were like, okay.
okay. No, I listen to You're Losing Me all the time. Snow on the Beach keeps coming on a lot,
Is it Snow on the Beach featuring Lana Del Rey or featuring more Lana Del Rey?
featuring Lana Del Rey.
Okay.
Dancing with Our Hands Tied, So It
Mm.
Goes. Delicate, 10-minute version all too well.
That's so funny that you say that though, because I've literally been on top of the country. I've literally been listening to Reputation nonstop this week because number one, such a good album. Number two, we're delusional that she's gonna say something at the AMAs. Nicole
Taylor,
can vouch for the fact that I clown over Reputation Taylor's version so many times, but I'm feeling it this time.
we literally were sitting our asses at the Eras tour, and this girl is like, she's gonna announce it tonight.
I literally was so convinced she was gonna announce Reputation Taylor's version. And she had me for a second because our first surprise song was This Is Why We Can't Have Nice
Oh, I
Things.
can't, there's things.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. And then it didn't
I can
happen.
attest, this is exactly what was
I'm
happening.
pretty sure I still have the video of me being like, we did it.
Delete.
Illusion, but I'm feeling it this time. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
Did you see she might be able to buy her master's back now?
Yes, I keep seeing all the news with Scooter Braun. Like, they're saying Scooter Braun trying to get help her. Sir.
No, he's trying to get money. He's
Yeah,
selling them for like $1 billion or
yeah. He's
something.
not.
But let's think about I love the tweet. I don't know who did it, but someone was like, she really will do anything to not give us Reputation Taylor's version. Like she will buy back her old Reputation so she doesn't have to re-record.
She's like, there you go.
Here you go. I'm like, that's not what we wanted. But
Well, those were our watches and songs of the week. So let's get into our last segment, as always, our upcoming releases. Starting off this week on May 29th on Netflix, we have Department Q.
also on May 29th, we have The Better Sister on Prime Video.
And rounding out the 29th, we have And Just Like That, Season 3 on HBO.
May 30th, we have Bring Her Back in theaters.
Also on the 30th, we have Karate Kid Legends in theaters.
Also on May 30th, we have The Phoenician Scheme coming to a limited release.
Also on the 30th, we have Shadow Force on video on demand and digital.
Bono, Stories of Surrender is on Apple TV Plus.
And rounding out the 30th, we have Lulu as a Rhinoceros on Apple TV Plus.
On May 31st, we have Good Boy on Prime Video.
And we also have Mountainhead on Max.
June 1st, we have The Mortician on HBO.
June 3rd, we have Presents on Hulu.
And rounding us out for the week on June 4th, we have Stick, which is on Apple TV Plus.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of today's show of As Seen on Screen. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. We always love chatting with you about everything entertainment. We'll be back same time next week, but until then, I'm Nicole.
I'm Gracie, and you can watch us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube.
See you then. Bye.